Yo, 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 it's your boy Mark Goodman, aka the voice box of the block. I'm back with another one. I'm super, super, super duper excited to be here, man. But before I get started, I got a little bit of information I got to give y'all. It's the pop up, you know about the pop up. I don't know if y'all know, but if you don't know, you've been hiding up under a rock. My wife's pop up. She has a wonderful candle line. It's going June 10th. You got some more days. Vendors. If you're out there, please contact my wife, Marissa Goodman. It's going to be a wonderful pop up. She got the skincare line. She's partnering up with wonderful people. We got the food truck going on. There's going to be a lot of things going on. So please pull up to the scene. My merchandise will be on the scene as well. The Good Guy merchandise will be on the scene. Pull up. You already know what's going on because the merchandise is what y'all been waiting on. You know I can't do it without doing what I'm supposed to do, and that's help. The Good Guy merchandise. Part of the proceeds will go to the foster care and the people of them and the other people to help them out. I think they're called the PS I Love You Ministry. They're great people down there. They do great things for Secret Santa and things of that nature. So part of the proceeds will be go to them. You know, I gotta do that in a major way. I love y'all. Keep doing what y'all doing. So let's dive right into it. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental Health Month, that is, has been going on since 1949, started by Mental Health America. Thank y'all, Mental Health America. We can't thank y'all enough for starting this. This is a wonderful thing going on because y'all know nearly 450 million people worldwide are currently living with mental illnesses. Yet 2/3 of the people knowing they know don't get treated. Now, there's a lot of people walking around here that's having mental illnesses and don't get treated. So you know what I had to do? I had to go find somebody. I had to go dig for somebody. I had to go pull somebody out. And look who I found, the wonderful Shameka Argo. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing lovely, but you didn't have to look or work too hard because once I saw your message, I was in. I was
Thank you,
ready.
thank you, thank you. Now I could do this. I could go over your credentials, but I can't do it like you could do it because only anybody want to speak for somebody. I would like for somebody to speak for themselves. So please tell my viewers who you are.
I love it when people say that. You know, I have lived it, so I should be able to talk about it at least a
Right,
little bit.
right,
So,
right. Please.
so what I will say is that I am originally from Kansas. I am the CEO and founder of both Points of Origin, which is a private group practice. We focus obviously on mental health, and I also have an online platform called Nova Luna Coach, and it is 100% online coaching. I am a licensed professional counselor and supervisor as well, and with that, that allows me to actually provide opportunities for minorities primarily to actually break into the field of mental health as therapists. So I provide affordable rates for supervision for licensure, and I'm also currently a founding member of the South Carolina chapter of the National Association for Black Counselors. And so we actually just started that this past fall. It's another opportunity to really share and spread awareness for mental health awareness as a whole.
Wow, wow, you do such an amazing job for the upstate, man. Can't thank you enough. And before I get started, and before we dig in about this topic, I want to give you your flowers. Thank you for providing such a great service for the upstate, man. And I want to appreciate you, and I want to thank you for spending time with me. And so moving forward, I wanna. You got so much going on, so I just want to kind of start back from the beginning because it's talked about when was your what gave you the passion for counseling? Because I know I read something you went to the University of Windstar and you started working with patients, and there you was kind of talking about where you kind of felt the passion for working with people with mental illnesses. So when did that start? Like right there, or was it been a long life journey?
In all honesty, I think that I'm doing exactly what I was meant to do. It's
Wow.
always to help people. I have a sister, so I would say that it started obviously from childhood for me. I initially thought about, maybe I'll be a doctor or a lawyer. And I ended up going to school and I was pre-med concentration for a while. But after I had the idea, like I was probably in elementary school, to be honest with you, when I was
Wow.
like, I'm going to be a therapist and I'm going to have a private practice. And so with that being said, I have a friend, she's like, you planned your life. Not really. I was just intentional about my life.
Wow, wow. So was there a certain person, maybe in elementary school that you helped, or a certain event that you came across that you was part of that you said, okay, you know what? This is it for me. Helping and trying to figure this out. This is it for me. Was that it?
No, in all honesty, like I've had people along the way that have come into my life and they provided confirmation and validation, of course, that I was in the right spot. But I have a sister who's about a year and a half younger than me. And so when I was about 8 years old,
Uh-huh.
she had major sickle cell crisis.
Wow.
And because of her crisis, and with me being the older sister, I actually ended up, spending a lot of time in the hospital and seeing different people coming and, the passion that they poured into helping families be comfortable with something that they simply can't help. Because, for instance, sickle cell anemia it's a hereditary, disease that's passed down from dominant traits actually becoming, prominent in this particular individual. And so I have the trait, it's actually the recessive trait, but um, I spend a lot of time, like for instance, in the Ronald McDonald House, and I'm 8, 9, 10 years old, and I'm sitting in the Ronald McDonald House having the best time of my life, and my sister's sick, and it's not a burden for us as her family because there were so many people who were able to come in and provide meals. So we didn't have to worry about money. We didn't have to worry about cooking. And so different things like that, from helping my sister and experiencing other people, helping people who really can't help themselves at that point.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. When you said that, my my brother, my niece, I have a wonderful niece. She was at the Ronald McDonald House for a while, and it was in Nashville. It was in some college, Vanderbilt College of Vanderbilt, and I ain't gonna lie, the facility was nice, and I had the time of my life. The food was good. I kind of get what you were saying, like, and it makes all sense to me when you said that. So to be around somebody like that and feel what people are going through, and that's an amazing, because again, like my wife, she dealt with some illnesses, and I had to be a part of that, and it was definitely a burden on both sides. So to be able to talk to you and give information to these people on how to deal with on both sides, actually being the person dealing with mental illnesses and the loved ones that sitting back and saying, how can I do it? And it's frustrating because I'm gonna tell you something that's a skill. I don't know if it's a skill or you got to practice it, and that's patience. And being a counselor, like so, you got to have patience. And the loved ones sometimes just it be so draining. We don't have the patience. So how can a loved one deal with someone with mental illnesses? Because we can go a lot of way with this because there's different mental illnesses. So I don't
Yes.
want to rush things too, but I just want to know, how can we say, okay, how can I help this person with dealing with mental illnesses?
In all honesty, my best in a nutshell answer is to not only be present, but to be mindful of the facts and to simply not personalize and internalize the experiences of the other people. I could apply that to most answers or most questions that you'll ask me as the actual answer. So let's say if we have someone who's experiencing depression, to not invalidate, their symptoms, their lack of desire to want to get out of bed, and to even just be mindful of the fact that, regardless if they want to, it's really hard and they're not able to do that right now. So
Wow.
when I say don't internalize it or don't personalize it, don't take offense to it. It's their decision to stay in the bed that day. And it's not because of you. If you're able to remove yourself out of that and not personalize or not back, it'll be so much easier for us to not have to tap into that need to be more patient than we already are in that moment. It'll be easier for us to not get angry and respond out of anger or frustration. So in a nutshell, in all honesty, don't personalize it. See it for what it is. It's their decision. It is what they are dealing with. I can help you, but I know that you have to be willing and open to accepting that help. And I may actually have to do a little work to figure out what makes sense to do in that moment and to even not take offense to the fact that maybe you aren't in a place to accept my help right now.
Right, right. And I think a lot of times it's a person's tone, how they say things. You know what I'm saying? Like when you try to come across and get a point, of someone when you're dealing with someone, and your tone can change, and immediately the conversation goes somewhere else. I don't know how to deal with it. I have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Sometimes my tone may change, but it's still coming from a heartfelt place.
Yes.
And look,
Yes.
when you a loved one, that's it. Ain't that's kind of natural? Your tone gonna change, but you still, you know what I mean?
It's natural, but it's the emotions. So generally, when the tone, you're in a conversation and the tone changes, it's because we're now tapping into a different emotional space.
Mm.
We're no longer functioning in the cognitive space, but now you hurt my feelings.
Yeah, right.
So even though I want to help you solve this problem and I want to be here with you, now we're talking about my feelings, and I'm gonna need for you to back up.
Right.
Back off of my feelings. Unfortunately, sometimes it's now I need to make a boundary, because even though I want to help you, now is no longer a good time because I want to hurt you, or I want to hurt you because I feel hurt. So let's come back at a time and a space where maybe I'm feeling more confident in managing my own feelings, so that my tone is not changing and you're not feeling triggered.
Right. So when you go about being a counselor, what are some of the common mental illnesses you see often? Because there's so many of them, we can go all the way around the world.
Yeah.
There's not enough content to go over all of it. But what are some of the things that you see often?
Generally, anxiety, depression, grief. We also have ADHD and some sense of trauma. So like post-traumatic stress disorder. Those are what I'd say are the most common. But we could take several steps before then and just talk about mental health as a whole. Everybody has mental health. Everybody has a need to maintain and manage their responses to triggers, which is really what mental health is what am I doing to stay in this equal space where I feel comfortable and confident and functioning, so that if I get a little upset, I'm still on top of it. I'm still in control, and I can explain that to you without, you getting angry immediately.
Right.
Everybody has mental health.
Right.
It's not just depression and anxiety. So we have people that come to counseling because, they're feeling stuck, or they have something that they want to work on in their life, but they don't quite know how to access those resources, and they're feeling a little overwhelmed. That's not depression. It may be a sense of anxiety, but that's not depression, or even maybe not even diagnosable anxiety.
Right.
We can talk to people about that too.
Right.
We don't have to wait until it gets bad.
Right. Well, I like how you said that. I like, you don't have to wait till it gets bad. When you feel like you're in an uncomfortable space, it's okay to talk about it.
Absolutely.
It's okay to have dialogue, and it's up to your loved ones. I'm coming back. Which is, it's up to your loved ones to be patient enough. Now I know you're more skilled than others, but it's up to be patient enough. And like you said, you might have to come back to that again. You don't have to judge and get mad and say, get up. You can come back to it and say, okay, it's not her time today, or it's not his time today. That's good. Now moving forward. Some of these illnesses. Now, this is what the question I wanted. What levels do you know? Well, okay, because I don't believe in medication a lot. So what levels do you say, okay, this person may need medication, or you can have talk therapy or things of that nature, and you can work it out with this person? How do you know the difference between that?
It's a case-by-case basis. It's different for everyone. I personally, as an individual and as a therapist, I support medication when necessary. Of course, I don't get to decide when it's necessary for the clients or for really anybody but myself.
Right.
But from a therapeutic standpoint, I will tend to recommend that a client go and talk to a doctor or psychiatrist for consideration of medication. If we've been at it for a little while and they're struggling to apply the skills that we've been talking about, or if they're simply not progressing fast enough for them to feel confident to continue. What we want, of course, is for people to stay in therapy as long as they are actually benefiting from it. So, but there are some times when people, they hit the spot where they're just not able to accomplish much.
Right.
But they still don't feel good enough.
Right.
And they've been there for a while.
Right.
That's that would be a time that I might say, let's go ahead and just talk to the doctor, ask them questions, get more information, and go from there. It doesn't mean that you have to take medication or that you have to leave with a prescription. And even if you leave with a prescription, you don't have to take it.
That's right.
You don't. You can
listen, I'm a reader. I review. I review something in a minute. Like I Google it and I review it. So
you told me you researched me. I heard.
Yeah, I do. I got to do my own research. I have to do my own research. So that's the only way to feel comfortable to take anything. Now, when you deal with kids, kids or adolescents, right, and their parents,
mm-hmm.
and their parents may want one thing from the child, expect one thing from you, maybe, and you're dealing with a child, and you see something clearly that's different. Is there a battle between you? Does sometimes you have situations where there's between a battle between you and the parent, and you have to let these parents know, hey, listen, I got, because I'm gonna tell you something. Some of these parents are difficult dealing with it, and they might think that their child might need medicine. And you're like, no, you know what I mean? So is there a battle sometimes with you dealing with this?
I don't tend to have a difficult time with battling. But
that might be a bad choice of words.
No, I'm just joking in general. But to be honest with you, that's one of the times where it does come up. Because as a therapist, if the child is my client, my job is always going to be to advocate for the child or the client in any situation. Right. But at the same time, I rock with the kids. So I'm going to take care of the kid regardless if they're my client or not. But it does come up sometimes, especially with teenagers, where the kid's like, I want it. And the parent's like, no, I don't believe in medication. And I'm like, you can benefit from it. You might really want to talk to a doctor. Right. And then there on the flip side are opportunities where the parent's like, I really need this kid to take their medicine because I want to strangle them. And they're so much better when they take their medicine. So at that point, in both situations, my job is always going to be to break it down and figure out what the barriers are and work to understand why each person feels the way they feel and see if we can come to an understanding. It's never going to be to make that kid take their medicine because that's their personal decision. It's always going to be, let's look at what are the communicative barriers here and how can we get on the same page and maybe just respect each other's point of view and go from there. It's always going to be easier for them to make a joint decision if they understand. Because in all honesty, this is something I say quite often, people only do what makes sense to them. It may be something super simple that they're struggling to kind of understand and communicate to one another. So instead of actually solving the problem, which is, are we going to take medicine or not? We're just bumping heads and we're getting nowhere. Right. So as a therapist in therapy, my point of view, usually in a situation like that is, what are the barriers and how can we get on a similar page? It doesn't have to be the same page, but how can we respect one another's point of view and go from there?
And when you're dealing with kids, I'm speaking for young teens, how can you tell the difference between anxiety and depression? Because I know you say there's a big difference between it. So how can you tell the difference between the two when dealing with it? What are some of the signs? If I'm a parent dealing with a child with anxiety, what are some of the signs you may need to look for?
They're actually very similar because they overlap so much.
It is overlap, and one can turn into the other.
Yes. Well, those two mental illnesses are probably the most co-occurring disorders. Of course, you also have like substance abuse, which also co-occurs with either, or if not both, anxiety and or depression, but they overlap so much. So sometimes it's very difficult to kind of separate the two. But a lot of times, more often than not, what we think of as far as what we see is the depression will usually be the person who is isolating more so than anxiety. But people with anxiety will often isolate as well because going outside of their room is too hard because I get super anxious and super overwhelmed.
Right.
So oftentimes you'll get, and you don't necessarily see it this way, but you get this super high energy with anxiety, and with depression, you get a slower moving low energy. But they overlap so much. You can get, like I said, an anxious person who refuses to come out of their room because being outside, you might call my name and that triggers me.
Right.
Or
Right.
you might yell at me and that triggers me. So I'm going to stay in my room. I'm not going to touch anything because you might yell at me to clean up. And you get a depressive person who wants the room dark and they're staying in the room because it's so exhausting to be around people.
Right.
So they oftentimes will look the same, but it's usually the reason and how it's showing up and feeling it, how they're feeling it in their body that's different.
Wow. Wow. I that that's clear. Like especially when you may be dealing with someone, you can kind of see it because you deal with it often. I think,
Mhm.
and as a parent, what would you do to try to cater that? Do you absolutely go take them to a therapist, or do you do a one-on-one time and you like 'cause for my house, I've developed something called Let's Talk. It's basically just get in the room and we chop it up, and we chop it up about different things. And because like I told you before, out there I love to talk, and everybody puts their thoughts and feelings on the table. And I say, hey, if you got a problem with this and that, let's talk it up. And I think it was healthy for us. So dealing with a person or a child that may be dealing with anxiety that's one of the ways to do it, man. Just put it all out there and let's talk.
Yeah, and now I'm thinking about that comment you made about, being your kid's friend before we got on,
Yeah.
because that is an 100% appropriate response. It starts way before the depression sets in or the anxiety sets in. Like I've seen 2-year-olds with anxiety.
Wow.
And a lot of that has to do with the environment and the parental relationship.
two
And it's
years
the
2 years
2 years old.
Wow.
Showing, of course, we don't diagnose them with anxiety too.
Of
But
course.
they're showing all the signs. They're showing
Wow.
all signs of anxiety. I
That's
mean,
crazy. And
yeah,
that's very, and I think, like I said, what thing was off where we was talking about, could you be, what I mean, your friends, I mean your child's friend. And like I said, honestly, personally, me, I am, you know what I'm saying? And I think that helped me tremendously dealing with her as she grows older and as we deal with things and she deals with things that I think because she has to know me in order to for me to be who I need to be in her life. She has to know me. And then I think she has to know the good and bad. And I have to know her in order to because she changes. I changed, she changed, I changed. We all change. So if I'm not attentive, then how could I see the change? You see what I'm saying? In order to continue to grow with her and be friends. I think that's the most important part of dealing with anybody, just being attentive and learning them. And sometimes I have to shut up. I talk too much. Sometimes I have to be quiet.
it's a very complex relationship. And so one of the things that I was going to say before we got on air about that, and even now I can tie it into your question you were asking me about, what do we do? How do we address it? So we need to just go to therapy. But it's extremely complex. Being present and not functioning only within inside of yourself is so important, because one of the things that we do is we people tend to take everything personal.
Right.
In
Absolutely.
reality, most of what we encounter and what we feel has nothing to do with us.
Right.
But if we are simply being reactive instead of being present and responding to the facts that we are experiencing in that moment, it's usually so much easier to be available for your loved one,
Right.
because
Right.
you're able to see things clearly without taking them personal. You can keep it on the table in a way that you have working parts to put together if you stay outside of your head and your heart without checking for clarity. So let's say someone is upset with you.
Hold on. You're moving, you're cooking.
Listen, this is what I
Say that
do.
say that one more time. Say that one more time. Say it one more time. You ain't got to
I
say
don't know if
all
that's it.
but that's a great statement you made. You have to do that, and I really appreciate you said that, and it's healthy for people to hear this because again, there's not enough content There's not the material. I taught you. That's why I called you about this, because people are going to dissect this and say, this is how I'm feeling, because there's a lot of parents are stuck in this situation. There's a lot of adults that are stuck in depressive situations. And while we move along, I also wanted to talk about and kind of just about being bipolar, because I know you specialize in a lot of things. We can go all day with what you specialize. So, dealing with people with bipolar disorder, how are we managing that? I know in the Black community, they say they don't talk. We don't talk. Oh my God, Black people don't talk. Well, we're talking today. We're talking today.
And that's kind of what I was getting ready to touch on. I was going to give an example of what I said. It can be really hard to talk when we are taking it to heart.
Right.
So let's say someone does something and we feel angry. So instead of being angry and responding out of anger, yelling and getting the body going, so we say, wait a minute, I'm a little confused with what you just said, and I'm feeling a little angry. Help me understand what you were wanting me to know.
Right.
Help me understand in that moment what you were trying to tell me, and look at that response and go from there. It might still make sense to get angry. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it won't.
Right.
But when you ask that question, instead of just responding out of emotion, you are now setting the stage to get more information to process and decide whether or not it makes sense to hit them, or to decide whether or not it makes sense to just correct the misunderstanding and give more information.
Right.
Because a lot of times when people are responding in such a way, they simply didn't understand what we were trying to communicate. Right. And they felt some type of way. We can address all that and clear it all out by simply sitting down and having a conversation with our kids, or having a conversation with our loved one. We don't have to enable and facilitate the mental illness. No. We can literally just sit down and be people, be good human beings.
Right. Now I got a question. It's popped in my mind. I had it written down, but as we go through, you're giving me so much information. I really don't have to go through my timeline. But when it comes to getting counseling in the Black community, do you think the Black community lean on religious too much versus real counseling?
I would have to say that I personally align more with spirituality than religion, and I think that they are very much so parallel at times.
Absolutely.
And so I cannot say that I want to decide for anybody where they rely or where they go.
Like prime example, back in the day, more so, you have a problem, but go to bed, pray about it. God got it in the morning.
Yeah.
Instead of going seeking, because when you look at the disparity of African Americans really going to get treated.
Yes.
They don't go. And I think a lot of that has to do with their religion, because they feel like there's a higher power. So that's who they need to talk to versus talking to someone who's in your profession. So that's why I asked that. And I think there is a good and bad to that. And I just want to know your topic. I understand that everybody has their own opinion, but I mean, I don't see why a healthy conversation and with a person of your stature can't be helpful.
And that's kind of what I was getting
to. If you are religion, even if you are religious or spiritual, having a healthy conversation with a professional person like yourself has to be healthy. You know what I mean?
And that's kind of what I was getting at. And that's the reason why I presented both opportunities, is because we tend to focus, I'm going to put this water down. We tend to kind of focus with the blinders on. But if you really think about religion and our reliance on religion, if you remove the blinders and you believe in God or whatever your higher power is, therapists exist. Mm-hmm. So if therapists exist and in God allowed for us to exist, why should they not be utilized?
Absolutely.
Everything is put on this earth with a purpose.
Absolutely.
And if the therapists are aligning ourselves with our purpose to help other people, how does religion not create a place for getting help through therapy?
Right.
Or for being a better person, being more aligned with your ideal self through therapy?
Makes a lot of sense. And I agree cold-heartedly. I say the same thing. And you deal with trauma and mental illnesses all the time, daily. How do you keep a balance in your own life? Like you always helping, because my wife is a nurse. My wife
Yeah.
is a nurse, and she is constantly helping people. She's constantly helping people. And I always tell her, take your 15, get you a hot 15. It's a 15-minute break. Get you a hot 15. Just to do what you want to do. Like, and I don't know. My wife likes to go, get her hair done, things of that nature, get her hair. How do you get away and deal with self? Because we're finna get into to self-perception and self-talk. I'm finna catapult into that. But I wanna ask you, how do you get your break? Because you got so much going on.
In all honesty, not much different than what I've been sitting here running my mouth about. I I, I don't take it personal. I'm here for 50 minutes for every single client that I have to give them what they need. It's if I try to fix it for them, not only am I being unethical, but I'm also not helping them and I'm not helping myself. So
Hmm.
I set boundaries and I simply don't take it personal. And then not only that, but when it's 4 o'clock and it's time for me to do something other than be a therapist, I do that. I simply do whatever I feel is pleasing for me in that moment and being true to myself. That's one of the reasons why I have green hair.
Yeah, I seen in all your photos you had green hair, and in your profession and other professions that's looked at in different ways, being an African American woman, and I'm so thankful that you did that. Don't change you, be you 24/7, 7 days a week, because you just as professional as you is with long hair, short hair, bald headed, big head. It does not matter. You who you are, and you're beautiful, so that doesn't matter. And I like that you stand on that, because some people feel like they have to change in your profession, because you a CEO, you the boss, and you still the same person. I admire that, and I saw that and all that, and I just like, wow, she has it going, and I commend you on that as well. Was
I
that
appreciate
something purposely that you purposely do that, or just like who?
I, I have had green hair. Let's see. It's been over 5 years now. I can't, it was December of some years ago. Then maybe somewhere between 5 and 7 years. But I mean, I also have, earrings all down my ear. And in all honesty, I mean, you can even see my tattoo. It's exactly what you just said. That is how I maintain my own mental health. I make sure that I am who I am regardless. Because if you really think about it, if I show up the way that I am, what questions do you have? At what point are you going to think that I'm not being myself if I'm showing up as myself? It's up to you to believe it. I am still exactly who I am, regardless of what I look like. So why not show you who I am?
That's wow.
That's how I manage. That's how I maintain and take care of myself. I simply work to make sure that I'm a whole integrated person and I don't hide parts of myself for the benefit of others. In all honesty, that's a large part of, this self-actualization, which is the ideal self, is we get closer to our ideal self when we stop lying about who we are. When we stop lying about the fact that you want green hair or you want to be a professional and not look professional. You still are who you are.
Right, you absolutely right. You absolutely right. It does not matter, and I want to get into that, because the healthiest way to get out and get in any depression is self-perception, self-talk, talking positive. You know how many times I hear someone throughout the day say something negative. You know what I'm saying? I'm big on manifesting. You are what you manifest. If you wake up all day, oh my God, it's gonna be this. Oh, man. Yeah, your day is gonna be. I can't die. It's gonna be a bad day. But if you always, I'm gonna say, this is what I got. I wear this. I wear this. I wear this. I don't know if you can
One
see
of
it.
your GoodGuy shirts.
No, it's one of my hoodies I wear. It says something is great about to happen to me. Something great is repetitive. It's self-talk. Something great. I say it all the time when I wake up. Something great is about to happen to me today. Something great is about to happen to me today. I say it all the time, and I mean it, because I'm manifesting it. Talk about how talk and self-talk and self-perception is so important when you're dealing, as far as the person, when they're in the space of negativity, when they're in the space of anxiety, when they're in the space of not knowing. Talk about how self-talk can kind of help you get out there. And I believe it's the most healthiest way. Just making sure you know how you're worth.
Yes. Especially when you're talking about like medication, to tie that back into. Now there are like bipolar disorder. There are some disorders that really is so much easier to manage and to simply exist if you have a healthy medication regimen. Like bipolar disorder can be one of them. Schizophrenia is another. Those we have those paranoid or delusional headspaces or way of functioning, those tend to be hands down medication. We need to look at that and more than likely maintain and stay on that medication and just stay on top of it. But in general, a positive self-talk and just, working we can say manifest. Manifest is more of a spiritual term than it is therapeutic. But Absolutely. So manifesting is comparable to actually the self-fulfilling prophecy, which is a therapeutic term. And the self-fulfilling prophecy basically says that when we function with a particular mode of thinking,
right,
we need to behave accordingly.
Exactly.
In a way that we're going to get to where we actually are headed.
Exactly.
Because the way we are behaving is setting pathstones, these mile markers on this pathway to that goal. Simply because that's what we're saying.
And it starts at the point, right? The point of origin.
It does start at the point of origin. And so since you tied that back in, earlier.
You know what I mean? Go ahead.
I was telling you earlier that I tend to function by the seat of my pants. It's how I naturally do best. Like I didn't prepare to speak with you today. And look what we're doing.
I did. I ain't gonna lie. I did. I did because I wanted to make sure that I try to get the best information I can. But I think that once I started talking to you, it immediately changed. And I just said, okay, I kind of know. You know what I mean? It was easy.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like to be true to ourselves, to know that that's how I function best. It works for me. Right. But it would be a projection and unhealthy for me and you if I simply expect for you to function the way that I function. That would be setting you up for failure. Even if I tie the self-fulfilling prophecy into that, if I want you to be great and if I want us to have a great podcast today, I am going to simply say, we're going to have a great podcast today, and I'm going to give you room to function however you need to function to be your best you.
Right.
And that's when you create that goodness. That's when you create the goal of an amazing podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have this vision. Now, unfortunately, it can be tough for some people and even some people in certain situations to create that goal or that idea. What's important is to not stop.
Yes.
And if you feel the need to take a break, be okay with taking a break. Just don't stop. Let that break be one of those milestones.
Yes.
And if you need to derail too. But if your goal is still the same, get back to it. Absolutely. Create a diverted path that's still in that direction. It doesn't have to look the way that we want it to, the way we think it should.
Right.
What's important is that we don't stop.
Right. And for me, I was kind of uncomfortable with having a mistake or making a mistake. And I found out that a mistake is not a mistake unless you're making a mistake. You just get back onto it, you correct it. And I quickly changed that mindset because that was one of my things, making a mistake. And I think quitting. A lot of people don't know how that could become a habit. I went to college 3 times and actually dropped out 3 times, not because I didn't know I was passing all 3 times, but it was because I had the quit mentality. I hit a wall, I quit. But I have to learn to just keep going. You have to break the cycle, because I can bleed that to my daughter. I really can. I always tell myself I can't preach about ownership if I'm not trying to own nothing. I can't preach about this if I'm not walking in that direction,
Yeah.
then I become something hypocritical, and that's not something that I want to become. So that's exactly, you're exactly right on that as well.
The parenting relationship is one of the most powerful relationships I
It
think
is.
that people
It
can
is.
have.
And
Now, of course,
I think I didn't want to interrupt you. And I think in today's society, and you can contest to this or you can disagree. I think male parenting is vital in today's society, especially in the Black community. I think it's very, very healthy. It's very, very healthy to be a parent, very, very involved, so you can see and you can kind of. I don't like to say. I like to say coach. I ain't gonna say coach, but you can see how they can grow, and you got to grow, because I had to change how I was raised a little bit in order
they,
to make sure I raised my daughter the right way. I had to not do some of the things my parent may have done and change the way I've taught, because sometimes you got to kick the old ways and start new. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
and that's one of the reasons why I say what I said, that it's one of the most powerful relationships you can have,
Yeah.
because it teaches you so much about yourself.
Ooh,
It's an
yeah.
amazing, and you were talking about growing with your daughter. If we're not growing with our kids, what are we doing?
What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? You
They
absolutely
are
right.
constantly growing. I mean, in some cases, like I even think about my dog. I remember thinking cognitively, when he was a puppy, he was a different puppy every 6 months. Every 6 months. And kids are the same, but their time frames vary. And if we are not rolling with the punches, do you really think that there won't be a moment where you are like pulling your hair out?
Right, right,
And and so when I say rolling with the punches, it really has to do with, am I reflecting and working to see and make sure that I'm understanding how my behaviors and who I am and how I'm showing up in this relationship with my kid
uh-huh,
is affecting not only my kid, but his behaviors and my desire to want him to leave me alone.
right. And I think having a relationship with my wife also is important
Absolutely.
to dictate how my relationship with my daughter gonna go, because you
We
know
should
how.
all have a variety of relationships because they challenge different parts of us. That is the best way to be a whole self. Is to
Yeah,
have different people in your life that you feel comfortable with getting that feedback from in a respectful way where you can give it to each other. We can grow through every single relationship. It doesn't happen in isolation.
no, it does it at all. And I'm not trying to hold you long, because I don't want to take up all your time. But what when you how important, because I think I can't remember, you said something earlier. How is important, again, when you're dealing with mental illness, or when you're dealing with a person, to have a healthy foundation in your house? Because I don't think you can have a healthy not a toxic relationship in your home, and you're dealing with a child with anxiety. You see what I'm saying? Like, how healthy is it to have a healthy home in order to be able to break that anxiety barrier or whatever? How important is your home? Because I know when you go in these homes, they're so different. I mean, you deal with the mental illness is so complex, and the people's homes are so different. How is it important? I just want to let you people know how it's important to have a healthy home, to build a healthy child, even if they do have anxiety, they know they have a healthy home to develop, maybe break that cycle. You know what I'm saying?
I could say so much here, and I mean, I could spend 30 minutes just answering that one question.
Yes,
And
I just talk. I'm good. I'm good.
so I've got a 2 o'clock appointment though, so
I'm
I'll
sorry.
have
I'm
to
sorry.
go.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I ain't gonna miss you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Because I do want to ask you about one more thing. Go ahead.
What I want to say though is like it makes the impact is paramount. Like I could not quantify the importance of having a healthy relationship when you are parenting a child. But I also don't want to dismiss the fact that everybody's also responsible for themselves and to develop a sense of resiliency. So we could have two people, two parents, two adults in a household, and one of them is fueling the toxicity. The other one's enabling it. and by whether it be staying in that space or, intentionally or unintentionally triggering the toxicity. But then you have this child at the same time who is witnessing it. We could be toxic away from the kid and the kid not be affected as much as if we were being toxic in front of the kid. But you also have this kid who has to make their own decisions. So you can have a kid that grows up in a toxic environment and they go forth and they do amazing things in their life. But we are doing ourselves and our kids a disservice to not give them a healthy foundation and a healthy relationship. And that doesn't mean don't argue in front of your kids, but argue in front of your kids when you have control, when you guys are able to have this healthy feedback and disagree and agree to disagree without it exploding. You can show your kid a healthy way to manage problems. There's nothing wrong with disagreement.
Right.
Nothing wrong with it. But it's 100%. Your point is, yes, we need healthy environments for these kids because we want to set them up with a good start. We want to give them a head start instead of pushing them way back behind, the starting line and giving them a disadvantage. You will absolutely 100% give your kid an advantage every single time if you are a healthy individual and you are in a healthy relationship.
Wow, that is great informative information, and that's exactly what people need to do to help, because we cannot talk enough about mental illnesses. And I know you gotta go, but I was going over your page, man, and I do want to talk about this. You had something jump in January the 4th. You had it going January the 4th through the app. Be your own thirst trap challenge. Man,
Oh yeah.
I want to know what was going on with that. Be your own thirst trap challenge. Tell my female viewers what was going on with that, because I think they missed a good one, and I was pondering myself what was going on with that.
It is online if you guys want to see that interview. So the interview that I did was actually on January 6th. It was on my birthday. But we did a whole week long. So I'm going to go ahead and shout out my friend, Latoya Dixon Smith. She's actually the CEO of One Union Studios. And so she does a lot of boudoir photography. And so one thing that she did is she brought on a couple panelists, myself included. And so I talked about just confidence and body awareness. And I did an hour-long interview, and that's online if you guys are interested in that. But she does boudoir photography. And so she did an event with the panelists, and we talked about different areas when it comes to just simply being able to love your body. And so my view on the thirst trap is not about being thirsty. It's not about trapping people into, coveting your body and what you got going on. It's really about doing it from a place of self-confidence. Absolutely. And like I was saying earlier, not worrying about other people and what they think about you and how they feel, but loving yourself regardless of what you look like or how you feel. And like I said the other day, actually, if I want to walk around looking like a 17-year-old in a hoodie with a top bun and some shorts, which I actually did like 3 days ago, I can still be myself, and I can still be okay with it. And I can still be dismissive of the negativity that people might bring her. Why is she professional and she looked like this? Still a professional, baby. I still got that master's and I still have the licensure.
Absolutely.
That's really what the thirst trap is about. And Miss Latoya, she actually has an online group. It's called the Greenville. It's a VIP Greenville photography group. And I'm in that group also. So, I will go in and post and send out positive vibes and things like that. But it really is an amazing experience. We had lots of ladies who left, crying, but in so much more in love with themselves just from having the opportunity to partake in that challenge. We had lots of different challenges that were all wrapped around self-love.
There it is. And before I let you go, is there anything you want to tell my viewers, anything in upcoming events that you might want to add that's coming up that you might want to talk about?
I actually do not have any events planned right now. I am on Instagram, though, with Points of Origin LLC and also Noble and the Coach. So I post lots of different videos with a variety of information in line with simply self-love and that self-actualization. So how do we get to our higher self? So I put challenges on there where I say, hey, let's look at it like this. Instead of getting angry, have we considered this? So and that would be Nova Luna Coach on Instagram and Points of Origin LLC.
Thank you so much, Shameka Argo, for coming on, man, and chopping it up with me, man. I hope we got enough content and enough material to give somebody a smile on their face, and I hope that we did our best and not just. I appreciate you. I hope to talk to you again because I want to give you this content. I need you to share it. I need you to post it. I need you to support it. And don't forget my wife's pop-up. She has a wonderful candle line. I know I didn't tell you about it, but it's a great candle line. I'm gonna invite you anyway. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, invite me. Send me the information.
If you got time, come through, hang out with the good guys. We're always gonna be down there. I appreciate you. We love you. Continue to give service to the community. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really digging this opportunity and what you are doing.
We gotta do it again. We're gonna do it again. Maybe we get some of your friends. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna touch down and have some great topics, man, because this is what the upstate needs. Nobody does it better than me. I'm the best podcast in the upstate. Have a good one. It's your boy Mark Goodwin, and we out.